Kyle actually smirked when I confronted him. We needed it more than you, he said, like draining my life savings was no big deal. I'm Rebecca Mitchell. I'm 34. I built my boutique from scratch. No investors, no rich parents, just years of 18-hour days, skipped meals, and a stubborn dream. The $120,000 in my account wasn't just money. It was my future for my second store, for my employees, for the life I'd fought so hard to build. And he took it, my own brother-in-law. He didn't deny it, didn't even blink. Just that smug little shrug, like I should understand. Like stealing was just ... necessary. But what Kyle didn't know was I don't go down quietly. I looked him dead in the eye and whispered, "Then you won't mind what's coming next." 2 hours later, the police were at the door. You think you know your family until they prove you don't? This wasn't just theft. This was betrayal. Deep, cold, and deliberate. And now, I was going to make sure every single person who helped cover it up would finally face what they'd done. Want to know what happened next? Then stay right here because this is a story about betrayal, justice, and one woman who refused to stay silent. I've always been the dependable one. While other kids wasted money on clothes or parties, I saved every dollar I earned working summer jobs. My parents owned a small hardware store in Portland. It wasn't fancy, but they taught me the value of hard work and self-reliance. My younger sister, Allison, was the opposite, pretty, popular, and always chasing the next thrill. I didn't party. I planned. After college, I worked 3 exhausting years at a corporate chain before risking everything to start Mitchell Designs, a boutique focused on sustainable fashion. I quit my job with only $5,000 in savings and a heart full of hope. Those first years were brutal 18-hour workdays, instant noodles for dinner, and reinvesting every penny into the shop. But I was building something real. Then everything changed. A drunk driver ran a red light and killed both of our parents. Grief crushed me, but I kept going. When the estate was settled, we each got $75,000. I poured mine into the store. Allison, she met Kyle at a casino. 6 months later, they were married. I hated Kyle the moment I met him. He had that smug, polished look, slicked back hair, too many rings, and a fake smile that never reached his eyes. At their wedding, he leaned over and said, "Your little shop's cute, but real money's in investments." That's when I knew. Kyle didn't just look down on me, he saw me as weak. A tool. Allison changed too. She got quieter, more careful, like she was walking on glass. She used to call me every week, then it became once a month, then not at all. Whenever I did see her, she smiled, but there was no joy in it. Just the kind of smile you fake when you're scared. I asked her once if everything was okay. She shrugged. "He's just intense," she said softly. That's when I realized he wasn't just controlling, he was isolating her. And I was losing my sister, but I didn't know how bad it really was until the reunion. The lake house had been in our family for decades, old wood, creaky steps, and memories in every corner. This time, it was supposed to be a happy reunion. I had just signed the lease for a second location. Business was booming. My vendor loan had cleared. I had $120,000 ready for expansion, my biggest step yet. When I arrived Friday afternoon, I was all smiles. Until I saw Allison. She hugged me like old times, but her eyes flickered right toward Kyle. He raised his whiskey glass. "The entrepreneur arrives," he sneered. "Still sewing enough dresses to keep the lights on?" I smiled tightly. "Actually, we're expanding. Just signed the downtown lease," he laughed. In this economy, there it was again, his need to diminish me. Later that night, I noticed something strange. My laptop was slightly out of place. The charging cable was plugged into a different port. That small detail, it sent chills down my spine. My instincts screamed. I opened the laptop. The browser history? Wiped, but then an alert popped up. New login attempt failed. Time, 10:45 p.m. Location, same as the house. Someone had tried to get into my account while I was downstairs, prepping dinner. My fingers trembled as I changed every password, turned on two-factor authentication, and locked the device in my suitcase. I barely slept that night, but nothing could have prepared me for what I'd wake up to. The next morning, my business partner Claire called. Her voice shook. "Rebecca, the vendor payment bounced. It says your account's empty." I bolted. Upright. What? That's impossible. I opened my banking app. Checking, $0, savings, $0 business, $0 gone. Every cent, $120,000 vanished. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a random cyber attack. This was personal. Someone in that house had taken everything, and I already knew who. I rushed into the kitchen. My face must have been ghost white because everyone went silent. "My money's gone," I said, barely breathing. "All of it?" Uncle Robert stood up. "What do you mean gone?" I held up my phone. "Over $120,000 drained overnight." Gasps echoed. Cousin Emma rushed to my side. Only two people didn't react, Kyle and Allison. Kyle sat calmly, sipping his coffee like it was any other morning. Allison, she stared down into her mug, hands shaking. "Did you call the bank?" Emma whispered, "I did. They confirmed transfers happened last night between 11:42 p.m. and 4:15 a.m. from a recognized device. My laptop, my passwords, my location." The silence was heavy now. This wasn't just a theft. This was someone close. And Kyle? He was suddenly very quiet. I turned toward him. "You were near my laptop yesterday? Were you in my room?" Allison looked up, panic in her eyes. "Are you accusing my husband?" Kyle smirked. "Maybe your partner messed up. Or maybe you're paranoid." Then I snapped. "Show us your bank statements, Kyle. Prove you didn't touch it." That smirk faltered. "Just a bit." Kyle crossed his arms. "I don't have to prove anything." I stepped forward, shaking with fury. "If you were innocent, you'd be shouting louder than anyone in this room." Allison flinched. She wouldn't even look at me. Then Kyle did something I'll never forget. He shrugged and said, "We needed it more than you." The words hit like a slap. Uncle Robert exploded. "What the hell did you just say?" Emma gasped. Aunt Patricia burst into tears. But me? I didn't blink. I reached for my bag calmly. "Then you won't mind what's coming next," I said. Voice like ice. The second I grabbed my phone, Kyle lunged at me. "You're not calling the police." He grabbed my wrist, but Uncle Robert jumped in between us. "Back off, Kyle." Emma pulled me away. Allison looked like she might faint. "Allison," I said softly, "what's really going on?" She opened her mouth, but Kyle cut her off. "We're done here. Get your things. We're leaving." "No," I snapped. "You're not going anywhere." "Not until I get my money back." He laughed. "Good luck." "That money's gone, buried. You'll never see it again." But Kyle didn't know I had a backup plan. And then boom, the front door slammed open. "Police." "Everyone stay where you are." Two uniformed officers entered. Behind them, a plainclothed woman flashed a badge. "Rebecca Mitchell?" I nodded, heart pounding. "I'm Detective Harmon, Portland PD. We received a fraud alert linked to your accounts." Kyle turned pale. "This is a misunderstanding." She cut him off. "We have evidence from the bank's cybersecurity team device, IDs, account transfers, and your face, Mr. Henderson." Kyle's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped forward and handed her my phone. I installed security software last year after a hacking attempt. It logs everything, timestamps, keystrokes, even takes photos during login attempts. Detective Harmon scrolled, then smiled. These are clear images. We have all we need. Kyle's eyes widened. You set me up. I shook my head. No, I protected myself. There's a difference. As the officers cuffed him, he thrashed. You think you're safe, Allison? You're nothing without me. She stepped forward, voice shaking but clear. I was nothing with you. Kyle. Stop struggling. His mask was gone, and Allison? For the first time, she looked free. Detective Harmon pulled me aside. With this much evidence, you'll likely recover most of the funds. More importantly, he won't hurt anyone else. I nodded, finally exhaling. It wasn't over. But the storm had broken. 1 month later, I stood inside my second boutique, open, thriving, safe. Mitchell. Designs had survived, not because I was lucky, but because I listened to my instincts. The bank recovered 97% of the stolen money. The rest was covered by fraud protection. But, truthfully, the money wasn't the real win. Allison was. She moved in with me, filed for divorce, re-enrolled in school. Her voice came back. Her laughter came back. She even started baking again, just like we used to with Mom. Last night, while chopping vegetables together, she turned to me and whispered, You were brave for protecting what you built, Dukkha. I want to be brave enough to rebuild myself. She already was. Kyle pled guilty to fraud, identity theft, and coercion. He'll be in prison for a long time. But for us, the healing wasn't about revenge. It was about rebuilding. Last weekend, we returned to the lake house, not for another reunion, but for a restart. Uncle Robert, Emma, Aunt Patricia, they all showed up, paint buckets in hand, tools ready. We fixed the broken shutters, repainted the porch, scrubbed away the shadows. The house that once held betrayal now held laughter. We made new rules. Real family protects, real family heals, not manipulates, not steals. As the sun set over the lake, Allison and I sat on the dock, feet tingling, faces relaxed. She turned to me and said, I used to think blood meant everything. Now I know love means more. If you've ever had to cut ties with toxic family to protect your peace, I see you. If you're still gathering the courage to say, enough, borrow some of mine, because blood doesn't entitle anyone to break you. The day after Kyle's arrest, the house felt eerily quiet. Everyone moved slower, more careful. The tension had broken, but the pieces of it still lingered in the corners. Allison barely spoke that morning. She sat on the back porch wrapped in a blanket, staring at the lake. I brought her coffee and sat beside her. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have seen it coming. I shook my head. You didn't do this. He did. She blinked hard. He told me I was stupid, lazy, that I'd never survive without him. I turned to her. He said those things to keep you small. But you're not small, Allie. You're stronger than you know. For a while, we just sat there. Then she took a deep breath and said, I want to get out, really out. I want to find myself again. That was the first real spark I'd seen in her eyes in years. Later that afternoon, we called the rest of the family together. Uncle Robert, Aunt Patricia, Cousin Emma. I told them everything, how the money was stolen, how Kyle had used my laptop, how I'd set up security tracking months before. They listened, they asked questions, they believed me. But what shocked me most was their reaction to Allison. They didn't blame her. They hugged her. Aunt Patricia, through tears, whispered, You've been so quiet for so long. I thought you were happy. I wasn't, Allison admitted. I just didn't know how to leave. Uncle Robert nodded. Well, you're out now, and we've got your back. For the first time in a long time, the Mitchell family felt like family again. Allison turned to me and said, "He didn't just steal your money. Becca, he stole me, but not anymore. We weren't just surviving now. We were rebuilding together." Over the next few weeks, Allison moved in with me. She brought only a suitcase and a stack of old cookbooks, ones Mom had given us years ago. We found comfort in the little routines again, cooking dinner, folding laundry, laughing over childhood stories. She started therapy. She applied to community college. She even came to the shop a few times, helping out during busy hours. The sparkle was slowly coming back. One night, as we made soup, she turned to me and said, "I thought I'd never laugh." Again, I thought I was too broken. I handed her a spoon. "You were never broken, just buried. And you're digging yourself out now?" She smiled. "Thanks to you." "No," I said. "Thanks to you. You made the choice to leave." And that was the truth. No one can save you unless you choose to save yourself. We returned to the lake house 1 month later, not for a reunion, but for a rebirth. Uncle Robert brought tools. Aunt Patricia brought sandwiches. Emma brought her playlist. We painted the old railings, patched up the dock, and aired out every room. Even the room where Kyle had stolen from me didn't feel dark anymore. It was ours again. That evening, Allison and I stood out on the porch, hands covered in paint, watching the lake shimmer in the golden sunset. "This place used to hold so many memories," she said. "Now it holds something else, a second chance." I nodded. We took it back, not just the house, our lives, our voices, our family. And nothing and no one was ever going to silence us again. Here's what I've learned. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who protects your peace. Some people will guilt you, manipulate you, or even rob you, all under the excuse of family. But you don't owe them anything. You owe yourself safety. You owe yourself love. You owe yourself the chance to walk away from anyone who treats your kindness like a weakness. I protected what I built. Allison protected what she became. And Kyle, he can sit behind bars and think about what he lost. Because in the end, he didn't just lose the money, he lost the only people who ever would have forgiven him. So if you're watching this and you've ever been betrayed by someone close, I see you. If you're still afraid to leave, still scared to speak, borrow my strength. And remember, blood might tie us together, but it doesn't give anyone the right to break us.